Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Ian.
And on this episode, I'll be reviewing Trois Dice.
I'll be talking about Bonfire.
And I'm going to be talking about innovation.
Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They're the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to go into playing, doing, thinking board games. And Ian, let's give us an update, please.
Sure. So a while back, I had mentioned that we had started playing My City, which is one of the latest legacy games. This one from Reiner Knizia. And it's a very easy to learn and very quick playing legacy game. The idea is that you play groups of three. So 3 games at once is called a chapter. And we are through 7 out of the 8 chapters. We only have 1 chapter left. We have one game session left, I suppose. And I'm quite enjoying it. It does a really good job of continually giving you new challenges within the framework. Like, it seems like a pretty basic framework. You're placing these tiles, Tetris-like tiles on a board and trying to do whatever the goal is, whether it's to fill up as many spaces as you can or trying to connect one side of the board to the other, whatever it is. But he does a good job of continually giving you new challenges so it doesn't get stale while still feeling like the same game the whole time.
Cool.
So we've only got 1 group of games left, 3 more games, and we're ready to roll. And the way it works is every time you win a game, you get 2, I can't remember what they're called, like prosperity points or something, and you draw them on your board. And so you have this tally of points that you get on the board. And then there's eventually going to be other ways you can get those other than just winning the game as well by accomplishing things in the game. And with only 3 games left, having done 21 out of the 24 games, my wife and I are only like 2 points away from each other. Like,
oh, wow.
We're sticking pretty close together. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. You see, at that point, at the end of chapter 7, Jen had established a very sizable prosperity point lead on me. I think she was ahead like 8 points ahead of me at that point.
Wow.
And but yeah, like you're right. You get the ones for winning, and then I think it does a really good job of. There's lots of in-game things that you can do to claim to get some of those prosperity points.
Right.
And they give a good heads up too. Like say, hey, make sure you try focusing on these things because you're going to score prosperity points for these at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
So, no, it does a really good job. I agree. We had a really fun time with it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. We're almost done, almost at the end.
Cool. Well, I'll jump in here because Ryan's got a closer for a thematic wrap up kind of thing. So myself, I brought out one of my favorite little. I'm a big fan of the deck builder engine kind of thing, right? So I put to the table Villagers by I'm going to try and pronounce it Hakon Garter, published by Sinister Fish Games, and it's a deck builder, village building, card drafting beautiful piece of game where you have, I mean, like it's your typical, what everybody should be, or not should be, but what everybody who knows a deck builder is familiar with is that there's a market, there is a supply pile, you have your hand of cards, and you as far as like a city builder, you're trying to build your tableau up. And the cool thing about this is the system of the cards, where it's very tech tree. And it's a nice big deck. There's a good variability in regards to how think about the villagers, where it's the concept where you have the domain of the miners and the domain of the foresters, and that kind of those abstractions of areas. And the way that you can very interestingly build your little engine, depending on how the market comes out and depending on how you're able to build your city balanced enough where you can recruit villagers and be able to build the buildings. That's the two kind of scales that you're working towards to quickly expand your village. And I am super happy with this game. Of course, I'm very kind of on the other side compared to you guys, where my wife's favorite hobby is reading books, so I do solo stuff. So this has a very cool solo countess AI that goes up against you. So if you like that kind of stuff, I would highly recommend Villagers.
I'm looking at the pictures here. That I've seen this game before, but I don't think I've played it.
It's been hyped up.
I have seen it.
It's been hyped up in the background a bit. And there's a new one coming out. I think it's like the comparison to city, the urbans or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the title is, but it's the other side. One's rural, the other's urban. So yeah.
Have you played Maki Koro or Machi Koro?
Yes.
Does this looks like it has maybe some sort of like, but without the dice.
Yeah.
But it kind of looks like it has maybe a Machi Koro look to it, where you're building up those.
What I'm loving about it is it's so fast, like 30 minutes. Once you do this, so for me, at least solo, I can knock a really deep game, good decisions in 20 minutes, because there is no dice rolling selection. I'm looking at the market. I'm going to recruit, and then I'm going to build, and then it's the event, then it's back to the store, right? It just has a very smooth cycle to it. And there are two stages. There's a mid stage where you get gold, and then there's a last stage where you're kind of like trigger your village to produce and get gold, and then at the end it's the gold that are victory points.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. Nice.
Neat.
So that's it.
It's got me intrigued.
Cool. Yeah. I want to hear more about Felduary, though.
Yeah. So when this episode drops, February/Felduary is coming to a close for us. And so I'm just going to give a last little update. Sorry, I got something in my throat there. We got some more plays in of the Castles of Tuscany, which I talked about earlier. Nice. Kind of like that Castles of Burgundy feeling, but kind of a little bit lighter, a little bit different of a game. I'm not going to go too much more into it. We really enjoyed that one. But the other one that we got to play that I realized Jen had not played. So when I set it up and they're like, do you remember this game? She's like, no. I'm like, oh crap. I really thought
blind.
So I was like, oh, so we went through Trajan, which is one of Stefan Feld's really grandiose type of titles. It's very thinky. It's very heavy in decision making, and it's really got that really cool, that Mancala action selection of moving the colored tokens in around the bowls, and whichever bowl you land in, that's the action that you get to take.
I think I've played this with you.
Yeah, I remember you playing it with me a while ago. I can't remember how long ago, but it's a very nice puzzle to try to solve, because when you go to move those tokens around the bowl, let's say if there's 3 tokens in my bowl and I have to go 3 spaces, like I have to pay attention to, because I have in my mind what I want to do in order to score points. And there's lots to do. Like this is a Feld. There's lots you can get. You get points and you get points and you get points. You get points from doing literally everything. But if you kind of focus on a few areas, you're going to probably do much better than, say, your opponent. but trying to get your bits to line up so that you can keep taking those actions over and over again is very interesting. Plus the added aspect of the Trajan tiles, that they have these colors associated on top of these tiles that allows you to take extra actions. And so you're also trying to work the puzzle of dropping the right colors into the right bowls as you're kind of going around. And then there's set collecting of cards, there's set collecting of city bonuses, or you got little guys, your legionnaires out in the top part of the map going out and conquering Europe. And then you're trying to concentrate on a whole bunch of, it's a very how do I put it? I'm just gloating about it.
Multi-dimensional.
Oh yeah. And just because I'm really, and I've got a couple asynchronous games going on Boita Show right now too, because you can play it online. So I've got a couple async games.
Yeah.
Because after I played it in person again, I was like, wow, I forgot how much I really do enjoy this game, and I need to play it some more.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not Jen's cup of tea. She's like, yeah, I liked it, but she's like, it was way too much thinkiness and action planning ahead of time for her liking. So I decided to load up some games on Boita Show and
I think what I like the most about that game, everything you mentioned, but also that time advancement mechanism on how many chits you pick up on your Moncala move, right? So when someone's grabbing a big pile, you just sit there and go, no, don't push the clock.
Yeah, please don't end the round.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
At the end of every round, you got these goals that you're trying to collect, and if you don't collect enough of the goals, like the gladiators or the other things, then the Steffenfeld thing of you lose points because you couldn't collect these certain types of goods or something along those lines. Yeah, so if you pick up 5 chips,
that's that last chaotic element. Yeah,
and then the timer moves. And in a 2-player game, it goes by really fast.
Oh yeah,
the track for a 2-player game is very short compared to like a 3 and 4-player game.
But in a 3 and 4-player game, you're competing a lot more shoulder to shoulder in all those little mini games on the board.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great, awesome. Felduary. Are you happy with all your Felduary games so far?
I think I got to load it up here. So we got the BG stats of February here. Just gonna load it up really, really quickly here by month. So let's hear, how many Felds did we get? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Felds played this month. And each of them, I'm proud that we played at least twice each. That was my goal. One of my goals for my gaming this year is that when we set up and play a game, we have to play it at least twice. That's one of my goals.
I'm so jealous right now.
And so, that was an update on Felduary and Mr. Rao's gaming habits that he's trying to develop for this year.
This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon.
And welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to go straight into reviews. And reviews. And we're going to go to Ian. What do you got?
Okay. Well, I thought I would look at an older game, older in terms of like 10 years.
Yeah.
To some people,
that's ancient in my ears.
To Ryan,
that's classic. That's depth. That's like body to it, essence. Yes.
But it's one that I rediscovered last year. I had played it a long time ago, but I rediscovered it last year and decided to pick it up this summer, and that's Innovation.
Yeah.
From Carl Chuddick is the designer, and Osmodi Games is the publisher. And so Innovation is it's just a little card game. It's a card game where your goal is to kind of play through the ages, right? It's you start at the Stone Age, at prehistory, and you work your way all up to modern age. So I guess you can call it a civilization game, although we'll talk about how deep the theme is, I suppose. And what you're going to do is try to gain achievements as you move through these ages with your card playing, and score points based on the cards that you can set aside and claim all these achievements if you can, which I usually cannot. So the game is set up in
this game. Yeah.
It's a really good game. I am just awful at it though. Just awful. So you have 10 ages through the games, and each of the age is basically a deck of cards. So there's 10 decks of cards laid out, and you start with the first deck, which is a prehistory deck. And so every card is like some sort of innovation, right? The wheel or fire or something like that. And what you do is you basically have a number of actions you can do. You do 2 on your turn. And they're pretty straightforward actions. You draw another card, right? But you have to draw from the lowest deck available, right? So you've got to work your way through one age, and then you can get to the other age. You can play a card from your hand in front of you. You can trigger a card. So every card has a bunch of symbols on it, but it also has little actions on it. And so you can trigger that action, which will let you do things. And sometimes that might be to take cards that are higher up in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or to specifically to score cards. You can take cards from your hand or from your play area and tuck them away as your points. And what you're trying to do is build up enough points so you can claim these achievements. That's your ultimate goal. And then if you can do that, another action is score an achievement if you have the points to do it. And so you also have special achievements, which are really tough to do. Like they're accomplishments that you can make throughout the game that are really, really hard to do. So like, for example, you might have to have all 5 or 6 different colors of cards in front of you, and they all have to be at age 8. And so, and until you do that, which is actually pretty hard to do, you won't be able to score this achievement. You have to do that to score this achievement. But the trick is that there are cards throughout the game that can let you take shortcuts to those special achievements. And so you have specific cards that you can try to score by doing there's still other accomplishments you have to meet, but they're going to be a lot easier to get if you have that card. And that's usually the only way you can get those stupid things.
And sometimes they're just
tough.
as difficult to line up as they are the big, large achievement too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so we always try to figure out what's the unique thing about this game. And this game definitely has a unique feel when you play it. So one thing I should mention is the cards also have certain symbols, right? So you can have castle symbols or math symbols or whatever it is. So each card has a certain number of symbols. And so what's really cool is that when you trigger an action on your card, if somebody has the action always has a symbol with it. If somebody else has the same number of those symbols as you do or more, they also get to do that action. And there's demand actions where if you have the most of that symbol, you can basically make other people do things for you, like give you certain cards or whatever. And you can really hammer at people.
Hurt.
They really do. And so one of the really cool things that this game introduces that I really don't see with other games very much is that you have piles of cards, and each color you put your new card on top of whatever the old card of that color was. So you only ever have one card of each color up on your board at a time. But if you can trigger an action that says to splay your cards, what that does is basically you take whatever pile you've got there and you spread it out so that you can see the different symbols from all the cards below. And suddenly you've got a whole whack load of symbols that you didn't have before. And so that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
That really kind of makes this game stand out.
Well, and the fact that you can splay on 3 sides as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
right. You can go
dimension of you
can go left, right, you can
splay
up.
Yeah, splaying, and if I remember correctly, splaying in a certain direction is much better.
Yeah, more powerful.
Uncover more symbols for you. than splaying in other directions. I think
Yes.
splaying left is like the weakest, but splaying up.
Yeah, because the bottom has
really,
three
really,
symbols versus
Yeah.
the two on the sides. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really neat way that they do that. I would say that the theme of this building up a civilization, I mean, it's basically just the names on the cards, right? Like, oh, now I've discovered painting, now I've discovered geometry, and now I've discovered the telephone, right? And so that's all that it really is. But I don't know, I think it's kind of cool and fun. And it's like, oh, I now have the ability to learn philosophy and now I have a refrigerator, but otherwise the cards don't really match what their thing is that much. Like the actions don't match the actual innovation very much. But what's really cool is the interesting interactions between the cards and the players, right? Because you're trying to find these ways that you can make the cards work for you so you can score the points and get better cards out there. And so trying to figure out what actions you can use when, which cards can you start covering up because those actions aren't going to work for you anymore, which cards will work if you have the right amount of symbols compared to everybody else. So you also have to kind of really look to see what everybody else is doing. And so that's where the really intriguing part of this game is.
Yeah, you're trying to find the combo. Like, I'm going to call it quote unquote
the broken combo.
You're trying to find the combo before another player finds their combo.
Yeah.
And you have to try to exploit it as much as possible.
And then from the experience that Ryan and I had of the game is once that person hits a combo, you now have to find a way to break that combo so that you can now get your combo back going. Right. Oh, it's
I remember the very first game that Norm and I played. We played it at Fall Con. A couple of years back.
And it's a true knife fight in a phone booth.
I remember feeling absolutely just super frustrated because Norm was doing this one thing. He only had this one card. He had this one card on top for like the longest time. And I said, how the heck am I going to score any points? He just keeps doing this one thing. And, he can keep taking like two ages ahead of himself and he can put it on top of a pile and then he can score these things. And I'm like, I'm just sitting here and he's taking cards from me too. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then finally I drew into it. I'm like, and then I started doing something.
And then you broke mine.
And then Norm's like, what happened?
Mama, you broke my toy.
I had something so good going.
Yeah.
This game creates moments like that.
And
it's usually when you threshold in those ages where it's like, I have a weapon. Yeah.
But there is a bit of a downside to that, especially if you're a new player, because it is punishing because it's not easy to see how those cards sync up. Like you really got to be paying attention and reading your cards well to know how you can use them.
If there's one detriment is that the learning curve of this game is quite high. You are going to have to play it 2-3 times in order to kind of get that feeling and know the cards that could possibly be coming and being able to be prepared or look out for them.
Now, would you say that there's like a ridiculous amount of randomness, or is it that randomness is not necessarily randomness because of the interconnectivity with these cards that you're pulling up and you just gotta, this and this works. No, this and this works. Yes, I'm going to play this. Right.
There is definitely some reliance on the card draw, but because for example, if you just can never seem to get cards that will let you score, well, then how are you going to get points? Right. But I think it's just more the difficulty of seeing how the cards work together. That's pretty tough.
Repetition. Ryan, you're right. Repetition.
Yeah. And I want to say that as a warning, right? That the fact that it's not easy for new players is a warning, but I hesitate to call that a detriment to the game because I don't think that that's necessarily a bad feature to a game. I think that's just the way some games are, and having to learn it and become better at it and become an expert at it, I don't think is a bad thing. especially for like, you just have to know what game you're walking into, I think. And that's what this game is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say is it is a bit jargonistic. They kind of make their own language, right? So they say putting a card down is melding. Well, just say put a card down. Like,
yeah. Or taking those actions is doing the dogma.
Yeah. Like just, I don't know, but whatever. I guess it's got its own little charm there. I'm so bad at this game. I keep neglecting the scoring the cards, and so I get like people run away with their victories. I'll get one achievement, and somebody else has 6. Like, and I'm working towards my first one, and they're already about to win the game. I don't know how to play better.
I think for me, and I'm not going to say that I'm good at it, but for me, I think what I enjoy the most about this game is just stepping down hard on the gas pedal and hang on to the steering wheel. That's what this game's about for me. It's just like, let's just go. Let's keep giving me options. Cycle until I find something. Like Ryan said, yay, I got a toy that works now. Now let's run the toy, right? Until someone beats it up.
But fair warning, everybody. This is how Norm plays every single game.
Step on the gas and hang on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's innovation.
Yeah.
I'm put it on the middle shelf, but maybe that's just because I'm not as good at it as
Well, we'll have to come back and check in on
So I have all of the expansion decks for innovation as well. And they kind of just so once you've played the game enough and that you kind of starts knowing all of the different cards, you can switch it up a little bit. So now you can like say there's the Echoes of the Past, I think is one of the expansions. And all it does is just now it adds some more cards that you can now mix into each of the ages. So now it's like, hey, I'm going to use half the base set and half the Echoes. And now I got a brand new set of cards that I can do. And then they just do crazy awesome things as well. And so I think there's four decks that you can buy to add on to the game, or you can just be the total chaos guy and just mix all of the sets all together all the time. And
that's what I would do.
Yeah, cool. I'm so glad you picked this one out to review.
Yeah, Innovation's a great game, and you can play it on Board Game Arena.
Yeah, you can. I played a couple games on there.
Cool.
We won't talk about how they turned out.
Well, I mentioned this one, and I think Ryan, both of us are kind of reviewing the games from previous episodes in our Think and Play and Doing, because I'm going to review Trois Dice, designed by Sébastien Dujardin, Xavier Georges, and Alain Orban.
Only a French teacher can say.
I'm trying not to like lay on the rolling. Published by Pearl Games. This one I'm gonna start gushing right away. This one is so much fun. So this is plays one of those roll and write games that plays solo to as many players as wants to play kind of thing, right? Very much like Welcome to. And like I said, it's a roll and write. And the big, like your joke last time when we talked about it, it's the dice game of the dice game original. Yeah, if that makes sense. Okay, so, but it is so separate in its own kind of game. It only shares an identity, I think. So let's go through the little nuts and bolts. So Trois Dice invites you to discover the history of the city of Troyes during the Middle Ages, when society was organized around 3 orders: the nobles, civilians, and religion. The responsibility of the first order is to protect the land and ensure justice. The responsibility of the middle order is the hard work of providing food and goods essential to life of the entire city. And the mission is to ensure the awakening of the spiritual and cultural development. So, like I said, Trois Dice is a roll and write strategy game in which you play a rich champagne family. It's up to you to seize the best opportunities offered by the dice to leave your mark in the history of the city. Will you get the most fame by fighting events, developing markets, erecting the cathedral, or participating in the construction of prestigious buildings? At the end of the game, the player with the most victory points wins. you're pretty much standard game. And that's my review. Thank you. No, okay, joking. What this game, as far as the game system goes, right? So that's the idea. That's the whole, this is who you are. This is what you're doing. Very similar to the parent game or the older sibling game. But this one, if you want to visualize, I mean, you're going to have your pad, right? And your pad's divided in those three areas of the, I've lost my track of the noble, civilians, and religion, right? So on the game board, it's the red zone, the yellow zone, and the white zone, if you want to be very kind of colorly clear. So how the game board gets transposed is that picture a wheel, divide that wheel in half, and then each half has a kind of circular socket that's cut out for the zones of the cities, right? So you have a circle and it's got now 8 punch outs all the way around it. Now, how this game works is that there's a rotation scale in the middle that designates how much each dice is going to cost, because you roll 4 dice, and it's pretty much, once I establish how the system works, it's pretty much a rinse and repeat for 16 rolls, right? 8 days. So you do a morning and a night roll. Now, the cool thing is you put these pogs down, or these circle discs, and they have, of the 3 colors, there's different colors on each side, except for 3 of them, which designate the bonus tiles. And I'll get to that later. But that's the cool part of the variability of this game, is you don't know if it's going to be a nobly dominated board, or a civilian dominated board, or a religious dominated board, because once you roll those dice, that circular interior dial, which designates zero pay, like every kind of dice drafting, the lowest number is going to be free, the highest number is going to be more expensive. And how you pay is your resources, your money, your prestige, and your justice, I believe. All that being said, it's really cool how this plays out, because thematically connected to the game, you're trying to build your city and create the synergy, like a good roll and write game that I'm a fan of is Fleet the Dice game, is once you set up your engine, things start to cascade. So later in the game, one dice roll is going to trigger about 3-4 things, or it's going to create an end of game scenario type multiplier system that just fattens up your victory points. So that's the game system, right? And it's basically on your first day, you roll your 4 dice, you put them out. Now, of those 4 dice, there is the enemy dice, okay, the dark dice. The cool thing about this game is the regular dice are clear, because when you set them down on the area of the city, as I said, those little pog pucks, if it's a red puck, the clear dice goes in, and let's say it's a 2, it now is a 2 red. So that's how they kind of get away with this not having multiple colored dice, is that let's just let the opacity create the color of the dice with the background of the area. Now, the enemy dice comes in like Trois, you have to defend the city. It comes in, and in the first 2 rounds, it doesn't attack your city, but what it does is destroy and flip over that tile. So let's say it goes in on a red civic building. Well, first of all, you can't use that part of the building anymore for a resource. And at the end of it, it might flip it over, and you might lose your only military region of the city for a while unless things get flipped. So you have to look at your board and see what's available to you too as well. And like in the regular game, all the resources allow you to change the pips on the dice, allow you to flip the colors of the dice. The cool thing I like about how they interpreted the end of game scoring in regards to those cards that you have is that they've turned that into a dice selection, or one of those dice selection options, is that the personalities or individuals can become end of game multipliers for the columns and rows of commonalities that you collect. I think would be the easiest way without getting into a deep description. The synergistic connectivity to this is so, for my brain, just scratches that itch of how can I optimize my dice selection? And this is one of those games where there's no competing. It's basically who can optimize the interpretation of the dice that are available to you each turn. And I'm not taking anything away. I'm not barring anybody from anything. It's all right. How are you going to best use these resources? And my conclusion, my opinions. I'm digging this game. Right. Let's do we always do from outside to inside. The box, it's your little 8x8 box, right? Your little rolling rate size box. The cover, gorgeous art, and I'm the one who thinks that the cover of Trois is gorgeous, but it's got that medieval look, same kind of thematic elements, identical thematic elements, all the way down to, there's not that much for components. Very good, very cool dice, right? I love those clear dice, but nothing over the top, nothing underproduced. Good thick cardboard, nice big pad. Very happy. As far as my rolling rights, man, this is top 3. This is, wow. Yeah. There's Fleet, the dice game. There's this one. And, I'm not going to joke about Yahtzee. If it hadn't been for Yahtzee, there would have been a lot of gaming I wouldn't have done as a kid. Right. So you got to, dance with the one that brought you sometimes. But I'll use that Yahtzee mechanism in something else like, most other games. Okay. Everything has Yahtzee to thank in regards to a lot of these roll and writes. But Trois Dice doesn't use that Yahtzee mechanism, but it has that wonderful flipping pogs triggered by the dice, triggered by the rotational costs. This is top shelf for me. Even in competition with some of the big box games, this is like, because I solo play, right? So this is very satisfying for a solo play. So I'd be interesting to play. This would be easy to play online, Zoom. Somebody could just download the stuff and one camera on the village.
So who came up with this theme?
Find the pad to write on and just print off their own pieces of paper.
Hunter
we should try this out. We should do a little Zoom jabs on the Trois Dice. So
we managed to do Welcome To via video conference, so I don't see why not.
Cool. So my last word on Trois Dice. Yes, it's better than Yahtzee. Okay. I don't know what that means. So, all right.
This episode is proudly supported by the amazing team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge right here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape's escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team, ensuring their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe. As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Game Lounge, they believe that life is more fun when you play games.
Hand off to Ryan.
Cool. So I'm wrapping up Felduary by reviewing a Feld game. I thought it would be fitting. And I bounced back and forth between either reviewing this one or another recently Feld, but I thought this one's the most fresh in my mind. And it's the one that's I got the most comments about. So I thought I'd review Bonfire. And it came out in 2020. Again, it's a Stefan Feld game. And it was published by Hall Games and Pegasus Spiel. No one in North America has picked it up, so it's only available right now through those European publishers, and there's no word yet of when it's coming to North America. And the art, I think Ian would appreciate that the art is by Dennis Lohausen of Terra Mystica and Gaia Project, and you can definitely tell that art style is in this game because there's a few of the gnomes that I was looking at. I was like, this I thought was like an actual like character from Terra Mystica, a few of them. So
cool.
Okay, so what are we doing in Bonfire? So the overview here
Chris
says
Pratt?
that the bonfires are sources of light, energy, and warmth created by the guardians of light in order to brighten the cities on the otherwise dark planet. The residents of these cities, however, took the bonfires for granted and exploited them for their personal gain. Disappointed, the Guardians of Light retreated and let the bonfires extinguish. The citizens could no longer live in their now dark cities where were forced to leave. You are a group of gnomes living close to the cities, and you also need the light of the bonfires. Missing it now, you try yourself to visit the cities and learn how to ignite bonfires once again. You must visit the Guardians of Light on their holy islands and ask for tasks to prove your goodwill. For each completed task, they will reignite one of the extinguished bonfires. Whoever manages to right? Whoever manages
effort, right? It's a feld.
Whoever manages to earn the greatest trust from the Guardians and manages to brighten their city the most will win the game. And that is the most thematic thing that I've read about this game right now. So in Bonfire, essentially, it's just a action selection game where you're just going to be spending these action tokens in order to take whatever their action is. Now, there's 6 different tokens. There's purple, green, brown, blue, red, and white. Now, what the purple ones do is that there is this central piece of the board. It's called the Great Bonfire. And what you're allowed to do is you're allowed to rotate that Great Bonfire, and you get some like resources or more actions or these other things called portal tiles. I'm going to put a pin in that one for right now, those portal tiles. Green tiles allow you to build up a crystal path around the edge of your player board. Brown tiles allow you to claim specialist gnomes and elder gnomes, and they allow you to kind of do some extra things. Blue tiles allow you to move your ships around those holy islands that were mentioned in the overview. Red tiles, once you're on one of those holy islands, you can now claim one of the tasks. You can get one of the tasks that these guardians have set out for us. And then finally, the white tiles are actually the guardians themselves. You can actually recruit a guardian to come to your city, or you can, yes, that one, and Gamora. And I believe Rocket.
I am Groot.
Or you can move the guardians along your pathway along the edge of your board, and that allows you to gain some resources. Now, the main way that you get these action tokens is actually kind of neat, is that you have these things called fate tiles off to the side of your player board. And these fate tiles are just 1x3 a little rectangle, and you place it onto this little kind of like this board in front of you that's kind of all puzzly. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to lay that down so that it matches other like colors that you've already placed onto your board. Because if you match like colors, you're going to get more action tiles. And on your turn, you spend one of these action tiles to take the action. Some actions allow you to spend more than one tile. So like say if I spend 2 tiles or 3 tiles of the same color, I get a better type of action. And if you're ever stuck, like say you want to really take this other action, I really want to move my ship, but I have no ship tiles, I can always spend 2 tiles to take whatever action I want. So that's if you ever get stuck. Now, we are taking these actions, of course, like the description says, to ignite those bonfires around the city. So what you're going to be doing is that all these things are going to end up scoring us prestige with the Guardians. And there's numerous ways to score prestige. Now, those task tiles that are along all those holy islands, that's going to be one of the main ways to gain this prestige, because they are worth 3 to 7 points each. And you have room on your board for 7 of them. Now, you have to be careful because they come in 3 difficulty levels. There's easy, medium, and hard level tasks to accomplish. And I have to admit, the hard level tasks are almost impossible to do. Like you have to pretty much spend your game planning about how am I going to accomplish a difficult task tile. Whereas the easy task tiles, those just kind of you're able to accomplish those just by doing things in the game, essentially. Now, once you've completed a task tile, you can take an action to actually flip it over, which is called Igniting the Bonfire. And then what you're allowed to do is you can take one of your gnomes and you can send them to the Great Bonfire City, and you get some sort of bonus. And that's going to be the game timer. As soon as there's a certain number of gnomes placed into this great city, this great bonfire, the game's going to end. So I believe in a 2-player game, if there's 7 gnomes there, so 7 tasks have been completed between the 2 players, the game's going to end. And then it just scales up with the number of players. Now, those path tiles that I was talking about, if you can manage to get the same path tile and bonfire of the same color to be adjacent to one another, you score bonus points. So there's some sort of spatial thing there. Also, if you can get a bonfire next to something that's the same color, and it also has one of those portal tiles, like I mentioned, you can claim, you get even more points. So there's that little cascading thing. So, and the way that works, though, it actually, because the portal tiles start being built on the opposite end of the board than your pathway tiles. So they eventually will end up meeting up in the middle somehow. So you have to kind of focus on building both of them at the same time. There's common things that you can work toward, that all players can work towards. And there are just things that you have to accomplish in the game anyways. Say like you completed your path, or you collected all the portals, or you collected like all of the gnomes. If you did something, those things, you can get some bonus points at the end of the game just by doing what the game asks you to do. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you can score points to, which I have yet to be able to do efficiently, is have a guardian ascend through one of your portals. Now, I'm going to say that's one of the hardest things to do. And that's one of my big beefs with this game. So I'm going to get to that a little bit later, is having the guardian. But you can score big points if you're able to have the guardians ascend through portals. Okay, I'm going to kind of jump around here, but this game is all about the interconnectivity of the actions. Everything is so interconnected, because let's just say you want to claim task tiles. Well, in order to claim task tiles, you have to move your ship. So you have to be able to move your ship amongst the Holy Islands in order to go ahead and claim task tiles. But in order to claim a task tile, you also have to spend resources. So I have to take great bonfire actions and these guardian actions in order to get resources. I have to be able to get guardians by taking those ship actions. If I want to do the matching bonuses, well, I have to have pathways. I have to have portals. So I have to take pathway actions. I have to take great bonfire actions. I have to move my guardian, like everything. You have to do a little bit of everything in order to just score pretty much any amount of prestige you want to do in this game. Everything is so interconnected. And that's where I kind of get that, again, gets frustrating in your first. I like that Ian reviewed Innovation, this game. The first few games of Innovation can feel very frustrating to somebody, because you don't know what the levers do. Synergy. What the synergies is of all the actions. Yeah. And for me, it was just like Innovation, that about that third or fourth play where I'm like, oh, this is how you do well.
Step on the gas and hang on to the steering wheel.
you do what Norm does. Yeah. And so one thing that we kind of always neglected to do, like other Stefan Feld games have these, like, you know, the research cards, or the things that allow you to do your actions a little bit more efficiently. And that's these specialist gnome cards that you can collect. These are, in my about 5 or so plays of the game, I think these are crucial, that you have to be able to get a few of these right off the get-go, because they are just going to make gathering resources a little bit easier for you, or some of those other actions just a little bit more efficient for you. They are really crucial into driving home your engine. Okay, I diverge. Outside in opinions. So the box has Stefan Feld is usually not known for his glorious, but every one of these Hall games, his games that are published by Hall Games, have beautiful art. Yeah. And it's usually been done by Dennis Lohausen. Aquasphere has beautiful art done by Dennis Lohausen. What was the other one? Oracle of Delphi, great art done by Hall Games, Dennis Lohausen art. Luna, done by Hall Games, done by Dennis Loha. So these Hall Games, Dennis Lohausen art really bring these games to life. The components of, there's a lot of them.
Lots of cards.
Well, no, lots of cardboard. There's lots of chits, and you have to kind of like sort them out and place them on the board and set things up. And these things have to be over here and make sure there's no two colors of the same that are on these islands. And I saw a couple tweets out there saying that this game should have been called Set Up the Game, because it does take a little bit to do that. And there's a lot of little bits and pieces that have particular places to go. So the setup does take a little bit of time. But other than that, the components are great. Nice chunky wooden bits. All the resources are wooden. Everything's got its own shape. I have no qualms about it. The rule book is fantastic. It's a really good laid out rule book. You can teach yourself this game from the rule book really quite easily. It highlights everything. Nice appendixes.
Right on.
Okay. So now I mentioned before about the gameplay here is that those initial games I think are going to be frustrating to most people that are not used to this type of game. Now I am used to these types of games, these nice complex, like I like the Lacerda games. Yeah. I like Arkwright. I like all these things, but I was very frustrated in my early plays just because I could not figure out what the heck to do. Like, okay, I'm just going to move my ship. Those things look like they're important to do. Click some task tiles. Oh, I'm going to click some task tiles. Okay, now that I've got task tiles, do those dictate what I'm supposed to do for this game now? Uh-huh. And so then after that, I was like, okay, now is my game on rails? Like, are all my decisions made for me that I have to complete these task tiles? And then also I have no idea what else I need to be able to do. It wasn't about until like the third or fourth games when I started playing, and I played a couple solo games. Like I did a Jabs episode where I played a solo game of Bonfire, and I got decimated by the AI. But after watching that video, I'm like realizing like I should have been doing these other things.
Yeah.
Like as I watched it.
Yeah.
And then I played it again. I didn't record the next session, but I did much better. I only lost by 1 point rather than 15. And so, cool. and I concentrated on some other aspects of the gameplay. So, yeah, Bonfire has been a really interesting game. A lot of people have been talking about that as their fate. Oh, yeah, this is top Feld. I don't think this is top Feld. This is very complex Feld.
I was going to say, is it the heavier? Because that's what I've been hearing. It's his heaviest.
Yeah, this is by far. I don't want to call it his heaviest because the actions are actually quite simple,
or maybe more complex.
This is definitely one of his more complex games. Now I talked about I played Trajan. Yeah, I feel Trajan has a better flow and and its gameplay is much more smooth. Yes, yeah, smoother than this one.
Okay.
So yeah, Bonfire. It's going to stay on my middle shelf for right now. It's got to stick with all the other lovely Felds that I've kind of collected over the years. I'm glad that I have it. I'm glad that I've got a chance to play it. I'll probably end up playing it a few more times.
Okay.
And it's probably be one of those ones where, hey, next Felduary, it's going to come back out. I'm going to play it a couple times. And
now, because Feld has such a diverse anthology, is there any repetition that you see in this game?
Now, this one, I would say I had the exact same feeling of this game as when I was playing Aquasphere.
Okay.
Aquasphere is also another complex Stefan Feld game that also kind of like you have to follow the kind of like an order of operations.
Yeah.
Of order, like, hey, I need to do this in order to do that, in order to do this. Okay. But I found Aquasphere a much better design than, say, Bonfire.
Okay.
This one just seems too complex. It was just complex. I seem to say this a lot, don't I, Ian? Complex for the sake of complexity. I don't know. Maybe that's just me growing as a person who plays lots of new games, and I kind of start seeing these types of things like, man, this could have been accomplished so much simpler.
I think that's just you being a dad.
Why are you doing that? So
Okay, I gotta get water.
I'm not knocking Bonfire. Bonfire is still a great game. Lots of people are going to really enjoy it. Just note that there are the interconnectivity of the actions, and it's going to take maybe a few plays in order to try to figure out, oh, that is what I'm supposed to. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you have to do in order to win this game, because I still don't think I've won this game.
I'm still trying to figure that one.
Yeah. I'm still figuring it out, but I think I've got a better understanding of what you need to do.
Yeah, cool.
You know, what you need to do and to do well.
Right on.
So yeah, Bonfire. It's a very interesting puzzle.
I'm glad you talked about this one because I've heard all the hype going on it. So yay.
So a few retailers managed to get some of the pre-order copies from the European distributors. So I got my copy from Mr. Dice Guy here in Saskatoon. He managed to get 2 copies. And I think at the same time, Dragon's Den Games also managed to get, I think, 2 copies in. So there was only 4 copies that were released in Saskatoon from my understanding.
He's a cardboard meerkat.
Yep.
Right? It's like this rare thing. Boom, he pops up and he knows where it is. And it's like tuk, 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 tuk on his phone. It's being delivered. I'm tracking it now.
That's actually pretty accurate. Because what you guys don't know is, like, during my breaks at work is that I'm visiting all of the websites and tracking was there new releases today? Oh, there were new releases. Bonfire. Should I get it? Yeah, no one else is going to have it.
We're going to talk about our
well, you know what? That's endorsement enough right there,
and why we like.
Cool. Them. Well, we've approached that wrap up time, and we'd like to say thank you very much for spending some time listening to our opinions and our conclusions. And sometimes they're formed on. Yeah. Sometimes they come out of our hats, and sometimes we have pretty good ideas. So, that being said, I'm your host Norm.
I've been Ryan. Happy episode 69, dude.
We'll catch you later. Oh, man.
This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and we are Bridge City Board Gamers. And you can find us on Facebook at Bridge City Board Gamers Saskatoon. You can find us on YouTube, Bridge City Board Gamers. We are also on Twitter at BC Board Gamers. And of course, Board Game Geek Guild number 3039.